So welcome to April's pickups. It's been an interesting month, what with this whole thing happening in the world right now, and everybody's staying at home, hopefully, and just nothing better to do than play video games. But it's been a really slow month as far as pickups go. And the interesting thing is, I'll say right now, there are no Vita games for probably the first time in a while in this video. And because of what's happening in the world, though, I do have some on order that were supposed to arrive this month, but haven't because they're not allowing international shipments to come in. And it's been really aggravating. Even local comic books that I usually pick up every month haven't shipped yet, and it's been 3 weeks. So it's been really kind of crazy. There's been, especially with some of the bigger releases that have happened this month, just getting a hold of those with some GameStops being closed and trying to find alternatives, whether it be standing in line at the front door of Best Buy to pick it up, or somehow finding one at Target, which I didn't really find any of these at Target. In fact, I don't even look at video games much when I'm in Target, unless I happen to pass by the clearance section. Even then, I often don't find stuff I'm interested in. But it's a very trying time for all of us, in many ways, be it, well, financially or just wondering how you're going to pay your mortgage or your rent. And it's been tough. So a lot of that has affected it. Obviously, I'm still in this house of mine that I've had. I haven't been able to get rid of it just because of stuff that's happening. And I'm actually thankful I even have a place right now to kind of stay in. I am still working. I still go to the office every Monday through Friday because I'm considered one of those essential workers for whatever reason or another. But that's kind of why I chose the career path that I have, because I knew that it's very resilient to a lot of this stuff and it will always be needed in some cases, such as now. Anyway, moving on from that, there's a couple pickups that are kind of unique. And one really big one, we'll save that one for the end. But first, we'll get into this. I don't. Many people don't probably realize this, but other than Darkstalkers is one of my favorite fighting games, there was another one, which is Guilty Gear. And the first time I played Guilty Gear was actually on the Dreamcast as an import. A friend had a burned copy, and he's like, "Hey, let's try this out. It's got really cool music to it. It looks interesting." Although I'm not very good at fighting games. And it was really before I started to get into them seriously, other than dabbling with them at the arcade a couple times, but I was by no means really good. This is one in the series that's kind of eluded me in a sense. There was only a couple versions of this, but it's Guilty Gear Accent Core Plus. And the physical versions were only on the Wii and the PSP and the PS2. And I didn't actually own a copy of Accent Core Plus. I have Accent Core, which was on the Wii, but that's kind of an older version, plus does more enhancements and includes extra characters, and has really eluded me a lot. I'm still seeking out the Wii version of this, but I happened to find a copy on eBay. The guy was selling it brand new sealed for $14. So I grabbed it. This is the favorites. It's not the original first print run, but it's one that I wanted to pick up for my Guilty Gear collection. So that's kind of cool. Next, a game that practically everybody and their mother is playing if you grew up in the 90s with a PlayStation, and that is Final Fantasy VII Remake. I have not completed this yet because I was in the middle. It took me a month just to get through Persona 4 or Persona 5 Royal before starting this. I'm currently only 13 hours into the game and I'm on Chapter 9. And it's probably going to take me half of May to really get through. But I'm thoroughly enjoying this. It's definitely a throwback to the original PlayStation game. And really having fun with it. Just taking my time, enjoying the sights, and going, oh, I remember that part, or wow, they changed this. I don't remember it happening that way. And I kind of like that aspect, that it's the game that you remember, but there's been slight changes, or they added additional characters just to kind of give you more of what that game represented back in the time. And I really hope remakes going forward kind of follow this, like they did with Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 3, where you remember going down these paths, you remember this event happening and it happens that same way, or there's subtle changes to things. And I've tried to stay clear of most spoilers for this game. I've had friends already who have completed this, and thankfully they are keeping me in the dark until I get to certain points, and then I can discuss it with them, which I really enjoy, and thank you guys for kind of keeping me out of that stuff. Next, I haven't started. This is next on the list after I finished Final Fantasy, and that is Sakura Wars. And I really enjoyed the PS2 game that we got here in the West, So Long My Love. It was also available on the Wii. I opted for the PS2 version because it did have the bonus of having the Japanese version, or Japanese language, on a second disc. And looking forward to kind of seeing, again, the changes they've made in this. This is kind of a soft reboot of the series, and it's more action-oriented. So, whereas the old games were a strategy RPG, mixed with visual novel aspects, which still has the visual novel stuff, as well as the dating simulator that it had. But I want to support this series, as I've always wanted more of them to come out here in the West. And I haven't had the opportunity to play the Saturn games or the Dreamcast games. I would like to get those at some point today, or some point soon if possible, but I never quite pull the trigger when I do see them. And they're not very expensive games. They're maybe $20 for the old ones on the Saturn. The Dreamcast one seems to be a little harder to get a hold of. I don't see copies of those on the stores that I frequent very often as much. But yeah, so really looking forward to this one. This will probably be my end of May, early June game that I end up going through. And finally, the big purchase for the month, again, kind of in the same vein as the Guilty Gear game on the PSP, and that is Guilty Gear Isuka on the Atomiswave. Yes, this is the arcade version of Guilty Gear Isuka. This was released exclusively on the PlayStation 2 here in the West. I've been trying to get a hold of the Guilty Gear games on the Atomiswave for my arcade collection for quite a while. There's only two. There's this one, and then there's also Guilty Gear X 1.5, which is one of the rarer games on the Atomiswave. Not many copies exist because the game was originally only for the South American region. I believe that's the story anyway, but I don't come across, or I've never really seen that cartridge before, really, except for occasionally online on pictures. They actually have this in a Neo Geo shock box, which is kind of interesting because the cartridges are only half the size of what these shock boxes are, but they have art here from Southtown Homebrew, which I've started from my Atomiswave collection, picking up some of their prints for their inserts for their games. But I've been doing the smaller Genesis cases, and I may show that, or if you've seen my Twitter, I've posted pictures of that project I've been working on, where I've been getting the the really thick EA Genesis cases, because those actually fit the cartridges inside really well and snug, with not all the extra room in this. So opening this up here, so this is actually the arcade board itself, and the person who had this previously was from his private collection, so he had this nicely wrapped. On the back side, it just has the one connection that goes right on the motherboard, but that's all they are for these. So if you look at the size of this case and the game itself, I mean, it's only like a third of it, so it's kind of funny because there's no. And I've seen some people do like foam insert cuts. Well, they'll do that here where the Neo Geo cartridge usually goes. They'll do some foam, and then they'll cut a small square for the cartridge to sit in. And I just find these really too big for that. The Genesis boxes are kind of perfect because you can actually sit them on your shelf with the rest of your Genesis games, and they'll just have on the side, it'll say Atomiswave or whatever up here at the top. So I'll probably end up changing this out if I can find a empty EA Genesis case that fits this cartridge. That way it kind of sits in a line with the rest of my Atomiswave collection. So I'm really excited that I finally have that Genesis game. I can mark that off the list. The next ones I'm going to be kind of chasing after for that Atomic Wave collection would be the Rumblefish and Rumblefish 2. And the, some higher end ones would definitely be the Guilty Gear X 1.5, and what was another one? Not Fist of the North Star. There's no way I'm going to be able to get that. It's an awesome fighting game, but that's way out of my range to be able to pick up. Dolphin Blue would be kind of cool, although I'm not. That's kind of lower on my priority list. So I would definitely say the two Rumblefish games are definitely on my sites in the future to hopefully grab. But I mean, it took me a long time to really settle on grabbing Guilty Gear Asuka. Because a lot of that, the other problem too is there's a lot of bootlegs out there for the Thomas Wave, so you have to be really careful if it's a legit cartridge or not. Samurai Showdown was the other one. Samurai Showdown 6, I believe. Yeah, 6. That would be the other one that I'd probably be interested in snagging for the Thomas Wave. But that one, again, has several bootlegs, and it's very difficult to find a legitimate cartridge for that. But anyway, enough of me rambling on. As always, I thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.